Good evening, and welcome to Dreadful Tales. Tonight's dreadful tale is the story of a protective uncle watching over his niece from beyond the grave. Now that's what I call overprotective. Are you ready to hear the dreadful tale of the watchful uncle? Cynthia, whom are you talking to up there? Come down here this very minute. Cynthia Amberley stepped timidly out of her room, clutching her doll tight against her heart, and stood at the head of the stairs, looking fearfully down at her cousin Roger. I was just talking to Uncle Jack, she stammered out. He was telling me ghost stories. Roger glared up at her impatiently. That's nonsense. He almost shouted. How many times must I tell you that Uncle Jack has been dead a whole week? Now stop your fairy tales and come down here. Hurry. Run. Galvanized into action by the shouted command, Cynthia began scrambling down the steep stairs as fast as she could, without even holding on to the banisters. As she neared the step across which Roger had tied the thin but strong piano wire, his eyes took avid gleam. He could already see, in his mind's eye, Cynthia's ankle catching the wire, the hurtling little body crashing down the steep stairwell, the prone figure lying at the bottom of the unmistakable position of those who have died of a broken neck. At last, he would be revenged on the uncle who had thwarted him out of an enormous inheritance, who had left all his wealth to this despicable little snip of a girl. Yes, he, Roger Amberley, would fall heir to the family wealth as soon as Cynthia tripped on the... Wait? It can't be, Roger thought in desperation. I'm seeing things. The white wisp of vapor didn't suddenly appear and lift Cynthia's foot over the wire. But it must have been, for here was Cynthia skipping safely down the rest of the stairs and stopping docilely in front of him. Roger Amberley passed a shaking hand over his forehead and knew that his nerves were shot. He'd have to get rid of that girl before he really went batty. And he knew the best, most foolproof way. Willingly, Cynthia accompanied him to the attic, where he stopped in front of the huge trunk with the massive iron top. It took all his strength to pull the lid creakingly up, and then he said, in his most amiable voice, "Look inside, Cynthia. There's a surprise for you." Eagerly, Cynthia stooped over the dim interior of the trunk. Just as Roger was about to push her, he was halted by her cry of delight. "Oh, Uncle Jack, this is a wonderful surprise. But what are you doing in here?" Stunned for a moment, Roger recovered his wits and roughly pushed the girl aside. "Uncle Jack? You're out of your mind, Cynthia. Here, Let me see what's inside. The interior of the trunk was shadowy and dark, and Roger had to thrust his head further into it before he could make out that vague, amorphous, white shape really was. And when he did find out, it was too late. For the grinning wraith had reached up and suddenly slammed the massive lid down upon him forever. Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's dreadful tale, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another dreadful tale.